Hi, Jay. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this interview for a class at UVM. It's titled How to Get a Job in the Arts. And we have an assignment. Yeah. It's a whole class.
Yeah. Wow.
um, and we have an assignment to talk to a UVM alumni working in a field we're interested in. And I'm interested in video and community media.
hmm
So I was like, I know this person who's a UVM alum who is doing that. Um, yeah, so I guess to start, kind of what do you do here at CCTV?
Well, first, I will answer that question, but first, I want you to tell me a little bit about are you an artist? Are you in the arts? What's your major?
Film and television studies, and I'm minoring in theater, doing technical stuff.
And what's your draw in the arts? Is it the creative part? Is it the storytelling part? Is it the.
Kind of both. Like growing up, I wanted to be a writer, and at some point, I was like, okay, I hate sitting alone and writing.
Mm,
And I love the like visual element of film and working with other people, and like being able to collaborate and not just be solitary, like you know,
yep. And are you finding that? What year are you at UVM right now?
senior.
Senior at UVM. And what are you feeling excited about the next step? Nervous?
Kind of both.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Um, I mean, yeah, I have like one semester yet left. So it's a lot of like, all right, here's the last of the classes I have to do. Here's like the couple things I can squeeze in that I'm interested in. Yeah, and then after that, I'm not really sure where to go exactly. I feel like I have a lot of interests in a lot of different aspects of production. Um, yeah, and also it's a rough time as always for looking for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking for a job that's meaningful,
Yeah.
interesting, engaging, all of those things. Are you going to stay in Vermont?
I don't know.
Yeah. Where would you go if you don't stay here?
I'm from Pennsylvania.
That's a big state. So where?
Yeah.
Narrow it down.
Outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So my hometown, there's a lot of people who commute to Philly or New York, and that area.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I'm kind of not sure where I want to go, and yeah.
There's a rich community media world in Philadelphia and around there. Yeah. What is it about community media that draws you in?
Um,
You did the neighborhood media
yeah.
internship, and what was useful about that?
I thought that was interesting, where it's like a production internship doing hands-on, but then it's also uh you're forced to do stuff related to your community, and it's like, oh well, we could do this random project. No, how is it gonna impact your community? And it's an interesting, like, you have to make it matter like locally, and not just be this cool idea I had, where it's like a good practice of like making your work relevant.
Yeah.
um yeah.
So you had started to have a question for me. How can I be helpful to you in your process?
So I guess
What do you want to? What do you need to know? What do you want to? Yeah.
I guess first, like, what do you do here? What does your job involve?
Yeah. Well, right now I work as one of the CCTV co-directors. So instead of a traditional single executive director, we have two co-directors, and my job is to help basically keep the lights on and keep the doors open and keep the ship moving, so that the folks who are doing the work, everybody, from you to the paid staff to community producers, are able to make media, access the videos that they want to access, share videos, look at our archives, participate in a local meeting, basically do the work that we do, engage with one another, tell their stories, practice their media making skills, bring in elected officials. They may be making a program for, a big audience or a small audience, but just basically my work is to help facilitate that and keep it going on the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm also curious, like, how much of your job is like the back end business stuff and fundraising emails versus like the creative, like doing production and interviews and whatever, like kind of
Yeah.
how much of it is the glamorous and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything about community media is glamorous. Which is true in a way. Like it is, like I have been here for 25 years, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but I started here. I left for a little while. If I think about what really motivates me to be human in this world, I think about being somewhere about 7 to 10 years old and just wandering around in the woods and following my interests, playing in a brook, piling up sticks, playing and being creative. And then somewhere added into that I had a sense of justice too. I had a sense of like, the world needs to be just and the world needs to be right for everybody that's in it. And I got lucky enough. I tripped into this job 25 years ago or so. And I was a field producer. I was just asked, can you come and record meetings? And I would show up and I would pick up equipment and I would go out and I would record the meetings and I would bring them back. We had VHS tapes. I would put the VHS tape in the deck and I would watch, like, did I do a good job? Because I wanted to do a good job. And I was like, oh, this is meaningful. It's interesting. To answer your question, now I don't record on VHS tapes anymore. We record on SD cards, as you know, and I do still sometimes record meetings. I love doing that. It's really fun. But mostly I'm making phone calls, applying for grants, writing thank you letters, playing in spreadsheets. And the best days are when that can all still feel like I'm wandering around in the woods, piling up sticks and picking up rocks.
I'm also curious, like, you have a pretty high position, like, generally, I assume most of the employees are, like, field producers. Well, I guess not most. Like, I guess a mix. Like, how much of community media is, like, the production end versus playing in spreadsheets and doing that stuff?
Well, community media is a broad term that encompasses what we call PEG, access, public, educational, and government access. PEG access was specifically codified, brought into law in 1984 by the Cable Act. It said cable companies must provide resources to provide public, educational, and government access. Community media was already around. Community media has been around. Community media is about, like, let's take these tools that we have for making visual images, technology tools. It can be cameras, it can be animation, it can be, it can be the use of social media, it can be the use of all sorts of tech platforms. How do we take these tools and apply them for our collective good, right? And PEG, the PEG axis, is one of those pieces. And then there are other things. So one of the things about community media is being a space where people can come in and do their work, being a space where somebody can say, I have an idea. I'd like to workshop this. Can you help me apply for a grant? Hey, I have an idea. I'd like to, and that's how, the Vermont Language Justice Project, which is working with us, we had a strategic plan. We had space. Allison Seeger said, hey, I've been doing this project on my own. I got a big bunch of funding. I need someone with a 501c3 to help. And I would like to do this with other people, not just in my kitchen. And we were like, it was like, sure, absolutely. And our, then accountant and now business manager, put their skills into that. Our then executive director and now our co-directors put their skills and expertise into helping create a container for that. So community media it's about producing video, but it's really about providing a space for these projects to grow and thrive that can do good, make changes, and engage with one another in the community.
That's interesting. So it kind of becomes not just like a space for like whatever community chose to come out of, and it's like whatever community organization that needs support will just come here and have a space.
Yeah. Sometimes people come in and they just want to workshop their ideas and their thoughts, and somebody like Jordan Mitchell, who's Town Meeting TV director, will just sit and chat with them for a while. And that is enough to help somebody move from one place to the next. It's it's really thinking about ourselves in the broadest sense of a social service, and making a difference in people's lives. Some people will come in and they'll make a program for a short period of time, and their production of their program, again, isn't for like if a bunch of people watch it, that's great, but it may be that they want to have. Here, I'll give you an example. There's a woman that makes a program called What's Not Working in the Vermont Mental Health Systems. She hasn't made that program in a little while, but she has, she was making that for a while. And that program was her way to bring in the chief of police, the commissioner of mental health, Speaker of the House, the Senate pro tem. She brought in community leaders so that she could tell them her story directly and be witnessed in telling that story. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty amazing. Somebody might be able to call somebody up, but it's a very lonely and disengaged experience to just call your elected official. But to be able to bring them into the studio and have them on, Ed Baker is another person who used the studio resource to do that. Addiction Recovery Project was his show. That show was a way that he could bring people together, maybe people who hadn't met each other, and build community and build momentum. And now he's continuing to do that work in the community around the safe injection sites, or the opioid prevention sites, as they're called. So activists can use this space as a way of connecting people. So production is a piece of it. But the production is really, it's the means to the end, not the end in itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, it's just, hey, come on my show, there will be a studio. Now I get to actually talk to you.
Yeah. Did you do some of that did you experience some of that in your internship?
I feel like we didn't do a lot of that sort of thing. I feel like we were pretty research heavy. I don't think we even considered that element of you can use it, use the power of hey, we're making a documentary, care to comment, person who will directly affect this. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, media making can be an advocacy tool. Just the act of making the media can get people to commit to things or say things that they mean,
Yeah.
and then follow through on that commitment.
There's the archive here where it's hey, there's this video from 20 years ago where you said you would do this. Where is it? Yeah, that's interesting. I guess also, here specifically, I'm not sure how common it is across public access to have an archive where it's part of the work is documenting the current day, and using it as a tool that can be looked back on. how much of that is like CCTV specific, how much of it is like relevant to the work going on here, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, it's really important that access centers, and there are, 23 across the state of Vermont, well, 24 if you include us, across the state of Vermont. And then, at their heyday, there was 2,500 across the country. And then, of course, it's a little less now, but, those access centers have hyper local content that belongs to that community. We're so used to now, like, I can look up anything on my phone. I can look up anything, I can figure out how to fix my washing machine on YouTube. But if you were to go to like one of those major social media platforms and like really try to drill down and understand localism, like your local community, what are the cultures? If I want to understand like rural Pennsylvania, Hannah, you know what I mean? There's like certain kind of phrases or certain kind of cultural experiences that are specific, and community media centers capture that and own that. And those that have archives, we were really lucky in 1984 when Nat started archiving.
Yeah.
When he was shooting, he basically like, you know, he didn't throw anything away. He kept things. He kept the records of things. He wrote down what we call metadata. You know that term?
Yeah.
Tells you the term information about information, right? So title, description, the date, who recorded it, who's in it. I mean, it's kind of amazing the work that he did. So it is, CCTV is sort of unique in that way, but we're certainly not the only one. And we just exemplify a little bit about what is so amazing across all of these centers, that they have sort of keys to the individual uniqueness that is, yeah.
I guess I'm also curious, like we were talking, I'm not really sure where I want to end up. Like, community media is very much a thing that's everywhere. Is it like, obviously I know it's pretty widespread in Vermont. Do you know, is that a thing where you can go to pretty much any city and have some kind of connection to a place like this that I could go to?
Well, in some of the bigger cities, yes. Massachusetts has the most community media centers of any state in the country.
Wow, you're small.
Yeah. In different places, it's regulated in different ways. Connecticut lost the franchising ability. Their community media centers are suffering. There's a lot of community media centers that are closing down. So again, community media is something you're going to find regardless of PEG access, right? And so there are community media centers, again, that don't rely on PEG access funding. Scribe in Philadelphia, they've been there since before 1984, since before PEG was established. I think what you can do is think about, bringing the skills that you're learning and that idea of using media making or using technology tools for engaging, for learning about your community, for being curious, for connecting people with each other and ideas. And then, once you have that, once you've married to that, you can bring that into any job that you do,
It seems also like it's kind of a resource of like, even if I'm not necessarily working at a community place and I'm doing freelance or whatever, and I can just come into a place and be like, hey, I need someone to talk through this idea with, like, where do I go for grants and all of that, I guess, is this sort of place where you go for that.
Could be, yeah. I mean, certainly here at CCTV, I just got an email this morning from somebody who said, that idea we were talking about, I found a place that we could apply for a grant. And I was like, great, signing it up right now. Let's work on this together. So certainly, a good community media center, or I shouldn't say good because it's neither good or bad, but a resource community media center provides those resources to the community. So I think of us as as a shepherd. We're shepherding resources, and those resources are our funds, our time, our energy. We're shepherding those resources on behalf of our community around us. So I would hope that you would find that other places, wherever you go. There is the Vermont Access Network around the state of Vermont. You can find community media centers. There's the Alliance for Community Media, which is the national organization that works out of Washington, helping to preserve community media. Well, preserve is the wrong term. We don't want to be preserved. We don't want to be pickled. We want to be helping to bolster and build community media. And then, and wherever you go, you can call us up and we'll say, hey, we'll connect you with somebody there.
Yeah, awesome. I'm also curious, like, how do you get a job working here? Like, obviously, you started through field producing. Is that, like, a common in, like, the people who stick around? Is that kind of, how do they get started?
Sure, yeah. Internships. I mean, interns, usually folks start as interns. Sometimes they're graduating from local schools, or sometimes they're coming for their second career. They've left and they want to come back and do a different kind of career, and they want to engage in a different kind of way. So internships, I mean, for me and hopefully for the staff, everybody here, they're thinking, here's somebody that's coming in the door. What do I see in them? What's the skill that I see in them? What can I do to say, hey, I see this magic thing that you can share? And then somebody can move towards that and find their own path. And so hopefully you found that with your internship to some degree, or where, Travis would have sat down with you and said, tell me who you are, tell me what you want to learn. And then Travis also sees in you some magical spark and you go, oh, okay, I see that too. And you can grow in that. I mean, that's like what we're here to do, right? As humans, we're here to connect with one another. We're here to learn, to appreciate what's around us. So this is one of those places that hopefully is doing that. It seems kind of funny because it's all like lights and cameras and studios and all this kind of right brain, or whatever one that is, the scientific-y kind of tech brain. But really, in the end, it's about heart and connection and magic, which technology is kind of like magic anyway, isn't it? Like, how does it even work?
Do you do much, like, beyond here of, or I guess I should ask, like, your background, kind of what led you to getting into this world, and, like, do you do all of your creative work here, or is there stuff beyond here that you work on?
Yeah. If I had a secret wish, I would spend less time raising money. I don't mind it. I mean, the nice part about raising money is I get to meet a lot of really great people, and I get to have fun, interesting conversations with people. And also I'm somebody who wants a lot of space and time. So I do have a lot of creative, I collect rocks outside of work, and I organize things, and I try to do knitting and drawing and other kinds of tactile projects, because they're, it is right now, my job is a lot of emails and a lot of computer time. I think I lost the train of thought on your question. I started as an art major. I went to UVM and I studied art education. I quickly learned I didn't want to be working in the school system. It wasn't for me. I was committed to never having a career, which is a kind of a funny thing to say, because I realized that's kind of a silly thing to say, but I wanted more of I just wanted to follow my calling and the calling had always been like to create. I was a photography editor. I was really interested in capturing pictures. I like turning the three-dimensional world into a kind of two-dimensional world. I've done it. I like moving images. I have done a lot of work with time-lapse photography and sort of allowing a story to unfold, but then kind of being able to sit with it, like to turn the present moment, to turn multiple present moments into a single present moment, which is kind of what time-lapse photography is. You can see how something grows, or see how, what happens when you're not looking at the world. So this work has allowed me to play and to touch a lot of those spheres. But there's also, you also have to do other things outside of work as well.
Yeah.
Other creative pursuits.
Is it common, like, for working in community media, is it like a well-paid job, or is it something that is usually supplemented with other work? Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like, if I were to go into that, is that like a career that sustains you? Because I know it's a lot of community funding and grants and all of that.
Yeah. Well, we are in the nonprofit sector.
Mm-hmm.
So the nonprofit sector save, certain kind of larger nonprofits, I think generally tends to have a lower salary range than, say, the private sector. And then in the community media sector, I mean, to be completely transparent, the salary ranges from $20 an hour to $38 an hour in this organization. And that's pretty comparable. That's pretty much, there are different wage and benefit studies that happen. So this is not a job where you're going to get rich doing this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is a richness to it. I mean, but there have to be other ways to make ends meet, and that's something that we've been working on and will continue to work on as this industry changes. It's an industry that's in transition. As it's been around for 40 years, more or less. I mean, 1984. It was 2024 is the story of PEG access. Of course, community media has been around longer, but I'm not sure. I think I hope that answers your question to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are you hoping for in terms of that? Are you thinking about, as you're graduating, the money that you're going to need to pay off loans, to have housing, health care? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, just kind of like like my girlfriend's also in the arts. So I'm like, great, we're both gonna be kind of pursuing passion versus money.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to balance a job that I enjoy and something that is actually sustainable, and like I'll be able to like live independently and all of that. Yeah, like insurance, paying bills, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering if, like, I'm also involved in theater. Like, I work downtown at the Flynn, and I'm like, is that a thing that I will continue doing as like a supplementary thing? Like, I enjoy doing it.
Are you in the union? You're part of the...
I'm not, like, I'm not paying for the union, but I work with the union.
Got it. Yeah.
I'm like over hire, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about deciding what is going to be sufficient for you. There's studies that say there's a certain threshold at which more money or less money doesn't change your happiness.
Yeah.
But there is certainly a threshold where we need to have our housing needs met, our clothing needs met, our food, be able to eat, and to sustain ourselves, be able to like spend time with friends in third spaces that may cost us some money, like restaurants or movie theaters or theater productions. Be able to maybe travel or spend some time, take a vacation, take some rest time, be able to pay for our health care, our health insurance, right? All of these things, there's what we call our basic needs. And then beyond that, like maybe a little beyond our basic needs as well, right? I think you can do that in the arts, and I think you can do that. There are ways to do that. But certainly, we have to be also working and advocating to make sure there is affordable health care, affordable housing,
Yeah.
that people are paid well, that if we are going to pay taxes, that those taxes are being spent on things that align with our community values. So, I mean, we're never going to escape the work that we have to do as citizens or as community members. I mean, citizens not quite the right word, but as community members to help each other and make the world maybe somewhat fair and just. Yeah. I feel like that turned really heady quickly, which I don't mean to do, but yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I have like questions written.
Yeah, well, I mean, what have we been talking for about 30 minutes now or so?
Something like
Yeah, yeah.
Getting a thumbs up.
What?
Or getting a
We're getting a thumbs up from the control room. Based on this conversation today, I'm just curious, where are you feeling like, I could be involved in community media, or I feel like I can be involved in the arts? Or are you like, how do you feel?
I don't know. I feel like I can be involved in community media and the arts. But I think there's like like a lot more to it than the like, what you go to school for and you're like, okay, this is my production class. It's a lot of like working on building a space where you can pursue the arts, and others can pursue the arts, and do this kind of work where you're like making a space that like progress can be made. Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're doing it the right way by asking questions of people, by coming and doing this internship. Check out the generator space, build community with other people who are trying to live and do the work that you're doing, because it's through that you're gonna build those relationships. Join the Vermont Council on the Arts. Sign up as join their teaching artist roster once you have got your feet in the door. Those community relationships that you build are the things that'll make it sustainable for you overall. I think the whole idea of the individual entrepreneurial approach, works for some and is important, but even there, those folks need makers communities. So finding others who are doing this work, which it sounds like you're already doing. Join the union when you get a chance to join the union. I think those are the things that'll help build strength and make it feel more sustainable. Yeah. And we can keep talking about this, but we could wrap up the show part of it, because I feel like this is kind of fun. I like this. I haven't done the podcast. What do you think about these microphones?
They're fun.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I guess, do you have like any other advice that hasn't come up about like making this work as a career?
Well, I think you're already expressing it. The sense of curiosity that you have, and the openness to learn is really you know, the way to go. What we don't know constantly grows, like that. We see this, we see what we see, and then outside of that is all of the things that we don't see. And just being continually open to like moments of surprise. I mean, what I learn from, and this is a total generalization, but what I've learned from your generation is the ability to be like, oh, cool, I didn't know that. Thanks for pointing that out to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the like having grown up with the internet
Mhm.
or, just like the fire hose of information that you just have to like
Yeah.
exist with. I just love that. And so I hope, that would be the thing that I would hope that you continue to, you've already shown here and that you would continue to show is like, oh, neat. That's a neat idea. And then just follow that to the next curious guidepost.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. This is fun to be able to answer these questions. I feel like I've learned things about myself.
Well, thank you.
Hey,